This week in East Brunswick, Team 1 met Team 5 for the finals of the East Brunswick Co-ed Volleyball League at Irwin School. Mary Tenascio and Adrian Eisner of the Township Consumer Affairs Office will be interviewed by children's librarian Fran Lee. They'll be discussing safety precautions for infants. Later, for this week's Consumer Aware, Adrian will discuss common household poisons. At this week's Township Action Meeting, the Council discussed further reductions in the 1983 budget. For our first spot this week, John Megliero, host of Channel 8 Sports Talk, will be in the studio with the winning wrestlers from East Brunswick High School.
Hi, I'm John Megliero with the Sports Report for This Week in East Brunswick. You may recall a few weeks ago we previewed the East Brunswick High School wrestling team and its tri-captains. Well, tonight we're pleased to bring an updated story to you. Joining me tonight are Ted Slawinski from the East Brunswick wrestling team and Chuck Fedak, also from the East Brunswick wrestling team. Both gentlemen were this year's captains. Ted and Chuck, I want to first congratulate both of you on a fine weekend last weekend, and let me take a moment and just update our viewers with the fact that you guys made some wrestling history, which we would like to talk about tonight. First of all, you two were the first ever in East Brunswick history to enter the state finals, two from the same team. The second aspect was that Chuck was the first East Brunswick wrestler to ever advance to the state championships 3 times. And finally, the fact that both of you finished first and second in your respective divisions was also a record. So I know on behalf of East Brunswick and the fans of the news, we like to congratulate you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ted, let me start off with you. You know, I was there Saturday and I saw all the matches, and when I waited for you and Chuck to come out, and finally, after the end of regulation, you're tied 2-2, and I said, my God, after all these years of wrestling, it ends up at this point. What were your feelings?
The score was
1-1 at the...
I knew I had the edge because I wrestled Joel LeBourne, the kid I wrestled in the finals, a lot, and he always seemed to peter out. I always seemed to like get all my points in the last period, and I had a lot of confidence that I would beat him in overtime because I seemed to get stronger as the match goes along.
Yeah, you seemed like you were in control, I mean, and in good shape. What did Paul Quirk happen to say to you at the end of regulation?
Well, he didn't really say much. Mr. DeMarco started yelling at me, telling me, you came this close, you can't blow it now.
Right.
It's like he just started yelling at me saying, you can't blow this match. And I kind of sunk in. I said, I came this far. Can't let it slip away. I'd never forgive myself.
Chuck, let me ask you something. I know, first of all, you had to sit and wait through, you know, 8-10 matches before you got out there. What kind of feeling is that, waiting, knowing you're going into the finals?
Well, usually it really gets to me, but this time I managed to fall asleep. I napped all the way up until we got to Ted's match, 58, and then, you know, with all the excitement there, that helped bring me up for my match.
You know, your match started out very quickly in terms of your aggressiveness and your opponents, and it seemed for a while there that you were trading reversals.
Right.
He looked strong, was he?
He was very strong. He was. I have a lot of respect for him, and it was really one of my better matches.
Well, we should say in all fairness that he was the top seed in your division.
Yeah.
And had you
I was
wrestled
the
him before?
underdog. No, never.
You never saw him until the States, I guess, then?
He took third at the same weight class last year, so I'd seen him around before, but I personally had never come face-to-face with him.
Okay, Ted, state champ, the first state champ in East Brunswick's history in 17 years. I noticed when you finished that match, you stood up and raised your arms, and deservedly so. What were your immediate feelings? I mean, did you realize at that moment that you were a state champ, or did it sink in some point later on?
Well, I was really relieved because I was glad it was over because that's what I worked for all year. And actually, the last two or 3 years, that was my main goal, to be state champ, and I was really, really happy when I won. I was happy for myself and for the whole team, the whole program, because that was our #1 goal, besides doing good, to have a state champ.
Sure. And Chuck, there's no disgrace, believe me, in finishing second to that fellow that you did. And you know, there's no shame in saying that you finished second in the state in your weight class, and I'm sure you're proud of that feat.
Well, I had a lot of mixed feelings after the match. It never feels good to lose, no matter where or when or to who. So it's not great. I mean, it's not like being #1, but I can live with it.
Okay. Let me ask you guys about Paul Quirk and Greg DeMarco. I know both of you have a lot of respect for these gentlemen, and in fact, they're two of the best wrestling coaches in the state. Ted, your feelings about them?
Oh, well, I can't say enough about them. I think they're great, and I contribute all my success to both of those coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd also have to thank Kevin Rafferty and Joe Doherty.
Sure.
They've been also great, and can't thank them enough for coaching me.
Okay. Chuck?
Yeah, I'd have to say that just to add to what Ted was saying, that we really do have an outstanding coaching staff, and the program is just getting better and better every year, and you're going to see more and more records being broken in the near future.
You know, speaking of records, I'd like to take this moment and just read off on each of you some of the highlights of your careers. First of all, you, Ted, and your season record this year was 30-2, and you finished a career record at East Brunswick High School with a 74-13-1 record, which comes out to an 84% winning percentage. The list of titles reads like a who's who, but you're this year's 1983 New Jersey State champ at 159 pounds, 3-time district champ, 2-time county champ, a regional champ, and you broke the school record for the most career wins. Now your partner over here, Chuck, didn't do so bad either. Chuck's 1982-83 record this year was 29-2, and you finished your career at 71-12 with an 86% winning percentage, which is unbelievable. Your many titles include New Jersey State runner-up in the 188-pound division, 3-time district champ, 2-time regional champ, a county champ, and this fact amazes me. You recorded 21 pins this season out of 29 wins, and that's truly unbelievable and is a testimony to your skill as a wrestler. And again, as we said before, you're the only wrestler to ever advance 3 times to the state championships. So I've got to say that, first of all, again, we are proud here in East Brunswick to have you two represent us as you have the last 4 years, and particularly last Saturday. I know it was quite gratifying to me as a graduate of East Brunswick and as a member of this community to see you two fellas there. Let me ask this as we close. Chuck, what are your plans now, and what do you see in the future for you?
Well, as far as my plans for the future, right now I'm looking at colleges, and I haven't come to any final decisions yet, but there's a possibility I'll be attending Syracuse University
Great.
Or possibly Old Dominion.
Very good.
And continue a wrestling career and a major in advertising design or commercial art.
Great. Ted?
Well, I've been looking at a lot of colleges, and my top 3 are presently Bucknell. I already got accepted to Bucknell. I'm looking at Duke and Lehigh.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll probably be a political science major, and I also going to wrestle in college.
Great. I want to thank you two guys for being with us tonight, and again, best of luck to you. For This Week in East Brunswick, I'm John Migliaro.
At Irwin School last Thursday night, Team Number 1 beat Team Number 5 3-1 to win the championship of East Brunswick's Co-Ed Volleyball League. Our congratulations to Team Number 1. Now here are a few minutes of the action.
Hi, my name is Fran, and this is the second session of our Parent-Infant program. And today we are speaking on toy safety. And with us today are Adrian Eisner and Mary Ionasio from Tenaccio from Consumer Affairs. And we'd like to talk a little about what parents should be aware of when they're buying toys for their children.
The most important thing that parents should be aware of is the fact that they should examine toys carefully, they should read labels carefully, and they should read instructions. Another important thing is that they should examine toys to be sure that toys that are made out of cloth are flame retardant, that soft toys are labeled washable and hygienic. Really, the most important thing is that parents take the time to examine things carefully and be sure that there are no sharp edges or sharp points, things that can be potential hazards to young children.
Mm-hmm. What particular things should they be aware of for 6 to 12-month-year-old children, as in our program?
Right. An important thing would be never to use things from cribs or playpens that have long strings, and the rule of thumb is never to have a string or cord or ribbon longer than 12 inches. Never put an item with a child that it might be coming apart. A stuffed toy that has a seam that is worn could come apart and be a potential hazard to a child. Also, it's critical that if you have older children in the home, and even with the adults in the home, that they be careful about leaving their items around the home. A seemingly harmless item such as a balloon, whether it's an uninflated balloon, whether it's in pieces or a whole balloon, can suffocate a young child and be a great danger to them.
So you emphasize that older children be educated as well as parents.
Absolutely. A game that's left around, dice, markers from games, can all be serious hazards for infants.
Are there any specific toys that are on the hit list now, or I shouldn't say hit list, but that are bad, that Consumer Protection does not believe in?
Well, the Consumer Product Safety Commission is the agency that gives us the information in the consumer office. And one of the toys that they have on the recall list, or if they're not recalling them, they're asked parents to please discard them immediately. And it's a very harmless looking toy, and it's a toy that if a parent was using common sense would purchase. It has a holding part which is of soft rubber, and it has a large head, and it has Mickey Mouse on it, I think, and Donald Duck, and it looks very harmless. The potential danger is that narrow, which is almost like a clothespin handle, has a small enlarged bulb on the end, and the child, or 6 months I guess would be when they start to pick it up, they put it in their mouth and it closes the airway. So what sometimes looks to be a harmless toy is not. And I think it's very difficult as parents to say, gee, I wonder if this is safe, or I wonder if that is safe. And I think a common sense approach, maybe even playing the devil's advocate as a parent with a toy, looking for the potential hazard, is what really has to be done.
Another thing that I didn't mention before is that we urge parents to discard plastic packaging and plastic bags of all types for any items at all that come into your home. A plastic bag left alone, or from the cleaners or from some type of clothing, can be a great danger to a young child. It's really a question of educating yourself and stimulating your own awareness of potential problems.
How do we educate ourselves? Where do we get our information?
Well, the Consumer Product Safety Commission puts out what we feel to be very good pamphlets, not only for young children in the ages that you are now dealing with, babies and toddlers, but also for older children when it comes to bike safety. And we are on the mailing list for the Consumer Product Safety Commission, the Consumer Affairs offices. We'd be happy to supply people with as many pamphlets as we can get a hold of, or if they're contemplating making purchases. For instance, I did a program this morning with you on the equipment for children, and parents do not realize the hazards that is around the house. The mesh playpens with the large mesh holes. It promotes climbing, and it also, if the child has buttons on their clothing, the button can get caught and the child can strangle to death. The plastic, the vinyl plastic around the playpen itself can be chewed off and get sucked down into the throat. So we do have that information locally here in East Brunswick, and we'd be glad to share it, like we've shared it with you, today.
And you're located right in the municipal building in the Civic Center.
Yes, we're there 5 days a week from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. physically in the office. And, I thought the program on the babies was super today. I think you're doing a terrific job.
Thank you.
There's no substitute for parental supervision. I think that's something else that we stressed this morning during our talk to the mothers, and it's a very important part of safety.
Right.
You can't expect to leave a child unattended for long periods of time and just hope that things will go all right. The parent or some adult supervision has to be available for a young child.
I think that's the most important thing.
I
It
think
really
so,
is,
too,
because we can't anticipate every problem. The mothers today said, boy, we didn't think of this and we didn't think of that. And you can't. It's not humanly possible. So what Adrian has said is to be there.
Right.
It's hard, but you have to keep in mind that something can happen.
Yes, we were mentioning that with the simple toys we were making too,
Yes.
which you pointed out.
The potential is there if you leave them unguarded.
Right.
And yet the toy like that can be so much fun, and it should be with a mother or, a father and the baby, but not to keep it occupied while you're doing the wash.
Right.
That's the difference.
Right. It brings you closer together anyway.
Right.
That's
It serves
important.
more than one purpose.
That's right.
It's good interaction with the child, and it's a safety factor as well.
Right. Well, I'd like to thank you for coming. We enjoyed you very much today.
It's our pleasure.
We enjoyed it. We
Enjoyed it
really
also.
did.
Brought back a lot of nice memories.
But we were glad they weren't ours. Right?
And next week we'll have a pediatric dentist with us.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
Hi, I'm Joe Fuoco, player-coach of the East Brunswick Men's League All-Star Team. The East Brunswick Lions Club is sponsoring the Men's League in a basketball game against the New York Football Giants. The game will be Saturday, 7:30 p.m. on March 19th at the East Brunswick High School. Giant football players who are expected to attend will include Scott Bruner, Mark Haynes, Terry Jackson, Gary Jeter, Gordon King, Tom Mullity, Lawrence Taylors, and possibly some others. Tickets are available for a donation of $5 if purchased in advance and $8 at the gate. Tickets are available at several local businesses, including Heritage Bank, Center Luncheonette, 79 Deli, Lawrence Brook Deli, Pandemonium, Cheese Villa, Brookview Luncheonette, Toman Cleaners, and Marlboro Liquors. Door prizes will be awarded, and there will be a chance for the public to meet the Giant players. The proceeds from the event will pay for the expenses incurred for the Kurzweil machine. The Kurzweil machine is a machine which is located in the East Brunswick Library and helps blind persons to read. It provides material for them which would otherwise be unavailable. So please come on out Saturday, March 19th at 7:30 p.m. at the East Brunswick High School to see us play the New York Football Giants. Bring the family, have a good time, watch us give them a good game, and benefit a worthy cause. Thank you.
Hello, welcome to Consumer Aware. I'm Adrienne Eisner of the East Brunswick Consumer Affairs Office. President Reagan has proclaimed the week of March 20th through the 26th, 1983, as National Poison Prevention Week. This is part of an effort to decrease the estimated 500,000 children who will be victims of accidental poisoning. 60% of all cases reported involve children under the age of 5. Now is the time for you to look over your home and do some poison proofing. Here are some suggestions which you can follow. Keep household products and medicines out of the reach and out of the sight of young children, preferably in a locked closet or cabinet. Even if you must leave the room for only a few minutes, remove the container to a safe spot. Store medicines separately from other household products and keep these items in their original containers, not in paper cups or soft drink bottles. Be sure that all products are properly labeled and read the labels before using. Always turn the light on when giving or taking medicine. Since children tend to imitate adults, avoid taking medications in their presence and avoid drinking medicine from the bottle. Refer to medicines by their proper names. They are not candies. Clean out your medicine cabinet periodically. Get rid of old medicines by flushing the contents down the drain, rinsing out the container, and discarding it. Ask for and use household substances which are available in child-resistant packaging. Insist on safety packaging for prescription medicines. Resecure safety features carefully after using. Safety packaging gives extra protection to your child. Medicines, household substances, insect sprays, kerosene, lighter fluid, some furniture polishes, turpentine, paints, solvents, and products containing lye and acid are most frequently the cause of accidental poisoning in young children. Remember, they are curious and are interested in anything that looks attractive or has pretty colors. Please take the time to look over your home and make sure that you have taken the steps for poison proofing. If you have any questions about this, please call the East Brunswick Consumer Affairs Office. Our telephone number is 390-6954. We're in the office Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. until 1 p.m. And thank you for joining me on Consumer Aware.
At this week's council meeting, Township Attorney Bertram Bush reported that Morris County will not be allowed to haul additional garbage to the Edgeboro landfill. Half of Morris County's garbage is already brought to Edgeboro. The remainder had been taken to the Hams landfill in Sussex County. When the DEP barred Morris from further use of the Sussex landfill, it was feared that the additional garbage might be assigned to the Edgeboro landfill. The township vigorously opposed this and is pleased with the decision requiring Morris haulers to dump 100 miles south in Gloucester County. On a related issue, Township Administrator John Runyon was pleased to report a low bid by BFI Incorporated of $648,000 for the township's garbage hauling business. During the regular session, the council approved several changes in the township's 1983 budget, including the addition of $60,000 to fund defense against Wheelabrator Fry and the restoration of $60,000 to the township's street lighting expenses. After adjournment, the council went into a special session to finalize its 1983 budget deliberations. A proposal to eliminate $120,000 from the township's salary and wages was raised by Michael Baker, discussed by the council, and passed. The proposal, along with specific recommendations, will be given to the mayor, who makes the final decisions on where the cuts will be made. Here are some excerpts from that special meeting.
couple of recommendations. I'd first like to say that these recommendations are a bit difficult for me to make after having grown up in town and participated in many of the fine programs that the town does offer the residents. And especially since I've had the privilege of working on the Recreation Parks Board over the past several years and helping to develop and to continue to develop those fine programs. But I think it's a different era and a different time that we find ourselves in, and that government is always reflective of the time in which it's working. And when economic times are good, government can expand, provide additional services, and the people are not only able to pay for those through their tax rates, but they're also quite willing to pay for those increased services. But when times are bad, as they are now, and as they may continue to be in the future, I think government has to shrink a bit. I think that thanks to the fine job that the administration, the mayor, and the council have done over the past 10 years, that we have the flexibility to make some cuts in this year's budget that won't drastically affect the quality of life here in East Brunswick. The fine management job that you've done, the mayor's done, the administration has done, doesn't put us in a position like some corporations or the county where hundreds of people have to be laid off. I think the recommendations that I'm about to make would result not 30 or 40 employees being laid off, rather 10 or 15. As I mentioned earlier during the portion of the council meeting, I recommended a cut of $76,513 from the liability accounts. And I'd like to recommend an additional cut of $120,000 from the salary and wage line. And I have some suggestions for where those cuts might be, and I think other council members might also. I'd be glad to go over those with the mayor to make sure that they have the least impact as possible on the quality of life and on the service delivery in the community. I'd also like to say that in looking at these cuts, unlike others who continuously call for cuts without consideration for their effect on the quality of life in East Brunswick, I'd say this government's programs and the budget that we've been working on and the recommendations that I'm making have been made with a keen eye on people, on the programs they affect, and on the taxpayers. I don't think that at any time in the past 10 years that people have asked for irresponsible government here in town. I think they asked for responsible services, for fiscal responsibility. And I think the administration of this budget will continue to give those services and that fiscal responsibility. And last, I'd like to say that I think this budget, as we worked out and with these recommendations, would continue to have this town with a sense of pride, continuity, and community spirit that we've all grown to become quite attached to and that the residents have demanded.
Let me make sure that I understand this, Mr. Baker. You are recommending a cut of $120,000 in the salary adjustment line.
Correct.
And the consequence of that would be a reduction
Of about 10 employees.
10 employees. All right, is there any discussion on the part of the council? Mrs. Gentleman.
I would certainly like to endorse the proposal that Mr. Baker just made. However, I'd like to go one step further. I'd like to see the safety section of our government, that no cuts be made in that area for obvious reasons. I'd also hope that these cuts would not affect direct services to the community. It's a difficult time for local governments because of the cutbacks, the reductions in federal and state revenue sharing. Local governments have to try to maintain a level of direct services to the public and at the same time keep the tax rate at a stable or a reasonable place. And I think that this budget that we're dealing with is an attempt to meet the conflicting goals of, yes, providing services, but on the other hand, keeping taxes at a reasonable rate. And I think it will serve the interest of the entire community. So I would certainly endorse Mr. Baker's recommendation.
I would have a problem endorsing that recommendation if, in fact, we are saying that it's not going to affect services delivered to the taxpayer. I would agree, these are tough times. Be very careful what we do. I think that when times are good and we know what the interest rates are and that kind of thing, that we can perhaps do more for the taxpayer than we ordinarily can. But I don't think that you can make a cut of 10 people, and this budget is already cut 5.5 people, for a total of 15 people, and not have it felt. I think if we try to pretend that we are doing that and it won't be felt, we are deluding ourselves. And I would not want to delude the public. I think that the recommendation is certainly worth considering because we do know that people are hurting and we do have to fund the things, the necessary things that must be funded, and make sure that we have prudent fiscal management not only for this year, but for following years. But let's not kid ourselves. What's being recommended is going to hurt.
Mrs. Weber, if I might comment again, I didn't mean, and I don't think either Mrs. Denahan or I actually attempted to misdirect anyone. I think what we're saying is that times are tough and these cuts will be made, and we recognize that there will be an impact on services, but what we'd like to do is work together to be sure that that impact is as minimal as possible.
You're saying, and the recommendation is to exempt public safety from initial
Correct.
layoffs.
That's one of the most crucial services.
All public safety, or, for instance, I know there's been comments in the past on the budget discussions on secretaries. Are you exempting secretaries in public safety?
I think we're thinking of patrol and dispatch and police officers in general, and police administration. Uniform.
Uniform officers and dispatchers. Yes.
I think it pays that we certainly invested our money in word processors and computers, and I think that perhaps some secretarial staff will have to be released, and that particular area will be reduced on personnel in the township. But I think because of the word processors and because of the computers, that we can do perhaps with less secretaries today than we have in the past. And it's only because of your foresight and the fact that we've got these things on board now that we perhaps can do with less secretaries.
Yeah, I just have a comment. I think the discussion on who to lay off and continue after, I just make a brief comment. And that I find layoffs very, very distasteful. And one of the reasons I do that, feel that way, is because having served 4 years on the council, I feel that because I participated in what's been going on in every budget session, that I have not seen hiring take place indiscriminately, and that this council has been tough in granting any requests for additional help. We certainly would want to know, or did request, what those people will be doing, how much it's going to cost the taxpayer, what benefit it has for the taxpayer, and the overall benefit it has for the community. So for 4 years, we've looked at salary and wages and have scrutinized every request the administration has made for additional help. So I feel we've done that. And to lay 15 or 10 people off this year, in my estimation, certainly will have a detrimental impact on services. So it shouldn't be treated too lightly. I don't know what sort of recommendations Mr. Baker or Mrs. Denkin are going to make in the areas that they're going to propose, but I think whatever does take place is going to have an impact on services.
Yes, Mayor Fon.
Well, just some arithmetic. There are approximately 235 full-time employees. There are 104 in public safety. About 90 or so of those are directly involved in, well more than about 95 are directly involved in police activity. I would extend the protective web to the public division of public works. I mean, most of the additions, in fact, virtually all of the additions, I think, to the budget, in terms of positions that I can recall off the top of my head, have been either police or public works, because we saw the need to build up our basic capability in those basic service areas. There are 27 in the Division of Public Works, so that's 131 of 135. It means that this reduction must be taken from roughly the remaining 104 positions. So it is about a 10% reduction in everything else in municipal government. It is true that, for example, that the word processing has increased secretarial clerical productivity, actually we estimate by maybe threefold. But the fact is that since we made our investment in word processing, we haven't really added secretaries, except in cases where there was a new facility open. I think we added somebody in the Open Public Works Center. But in terms of secretaries in this building and in other places, we really haven't added secretarial staff. In fact, we've lost a fair number through resignations, retirements, and death. So, I mean, what we've done with word processing is been able to keep up with the increasing workload. And whether we like it or not, there is, government does run on paper, and the requirements for paper that are imposed by the state, in particular the county, and simply this council in terms of reports and memoranda and questions that get asked, plus the regular flow of paperwork to serve the public. When a letter is directed to a letter of complaint or a letter of compliment or a letter of inquiry or a phone call or whatever it might be, requires a response. And so there is a great deal of paperwork and a great deal of activity. Word processing has simply allowed us to keep up with that without substantially increasing. And indeed, I think if we added the numbers, reducing the secretarial force. So I think it would be very difficult simply to say eliminate a secretarial position and the word process will make up for it. We will have to come at it from some other approach in order to achieve this, if indeed this is what the council desires and if this is what's in the adopted budget. My pledge, and there unquestionably will be an impact on services, but I would pledge to, if this is the budget that's finally adopted, to attempt to minimize that impact by not having some big sending people on the door, but trying to manage it to lessen the impact as much as possible.
Mr. Wright, you had a comment?
Yeah, I think just a comment, I'll do it for you instead of telling you about it budget by budget, but it is in fact a fact that we have reduced staffing in this town in every department over the last 5 years, full-time staffing, except for the Department of Public Safety and the Department of Public Works. And in fact, we would have had more increases if we had not done the other reductions. I think it might be a valuable tool for us to take a look at. I think we have all been sensitive to this particular need, and there have been continuing reductions in all agencies except the Department of Public Works, or the Division of Public Works, essentially, and Public Safety. But I haven't put that together. I think it'd be fascinating just for me to look at it myself and for you to see.
Okay, so let's...
The Township Council will hold a public hearing on the 1983 budget in the municipal courtroom on Wednesday, March 30th at 8 p.m. Residents are encouraged to attend.